Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Southland College Preparatory High School Board Meeting. We will call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bean, Mr. Simpkins,
Here.
Mr. Murphy,
Here.
Dr. Davis, here, Dr. Hall, here, Dr. Meyer, here.
At this time, we will have a public hearing on e-learning program. And we'll ask Dr. Davis if she could provide us with information that we have.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. College, would you give a presentation, please?
Good evening, board and Dr. Davis.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, so our goal this evening is to get our e-learning plan approved. The reason why is that we want to minimize any disruptions in our school schedule. And then also to make sure that the learning process continues throughout the school year. So there's continuity essentially, and we don't have to use our emergency days. So that's our goal for this evening. I'm going to be on the third slide, Mr. Bear, concerning collaboration and the team process. We've had essentially about 12 people helping putting this together. In district administration, we had Dr. Rupert, Dr. Hamilton, Mr. Talley, myself. For school administration, Southland leadership team played a big role in this as well. Technology department, we had Mr. Evans and Mr. Lights review this. Special ed departments, we had Ms. Dusky and also Dr. Harris and their special ed team review it. And also some of the senior Southland staff members. So the process was essentially, we took about a month. It was like late spring, early summertime. And we fleshed out, we edited, and we firmed up this plan to share with you this evening. And I do want to thank everybody that was part of this as well. It was thoroughly done. Concerning scheduling and attendance for our Southland students, they are essentially going to follow their schedule. They're not physically going to be here. They're going to be from home, and they're going to be visiting every single class through Google Classroom and also Google Meets, which is attached to that, obviously, or embedded in that. Staff, number one thing that they're going to be doing is they're going to be taking attendance. That's going to be through Google Meets, and then they're going to transfer that over to our school, student information system, which is PowerSchool, and they're going to add that on our PowerSchool for attendance. Building leadership actually plays a really big role in this because instead of just overseeing approximately 600 students and just under 100 staff members under one roof, they're doing this under that many roofs, about 650 roofs there. So they're going to have to go on Google Meets and Google Classrooms, and making sure that they're there to support staff, students, and parents as well. All right, next slide is technology. That's the glue that puts all this together. So we know that all students are assigned a district issue Chromebook. The main thing for them is making sure that they take it home and that they can get it powered up. Concerning learning platform, it's our Google Suites platform. We've been utilizing this for the last 2.5 years. We're very comfortable with that. We actually use it on a daily basis, even right now with the Google Classroom. So that's the main hub of how we assign work, how students submit work, and it's a research hub for everybody. Concerning internet, if there are any families that do not have access to the internet, that's where our IT department, Mr. Evans and Mr. Lights comes in. They're going to go ahead and provide resources on who possibly does offer free internet. And also Mr. Evans does have a certain amount of mobile hotspot devices. So we can provide that to you to make sure that all students have access to our e-learning days. Concerning online curriculum resources. Now, this is just a small sampling of what I have listed there, but we can go paperless right away. So all of our curriculum, supplemental material, everything is online. So we have that option of pivot either, doing something with something that's from a textbook or assigning worksheets to actually doing something online. So we are very fortunate to have all the resources that we have. For the next slide, academic engagements. So essentially, it's like a 4-tier approach. Students or teachers are going to receive their students, take attendance. They're going to deliver the lesson. They're going to monitor student activity, provide support, and then also monitor what kind of submission of work has been handed in that day as well. Concerning teacher communication to students, once again, Google Classroom and Google Meets. So there's that oral correspondence that happens that way. Also on Google Classroom, you do have the stream option as well, where students can correspond with their teacher and also the chat room. And then once again, the support of the leadership team is extremely important here. They're extremely busy during these days providing support. I think one of the best things they can do is just jump on a Google Classroom just to monitor and see how that classroom instruction is being delivered. And then once again, you have the IT department that's there on the side supporting us. And they're very accessible for students and also parents. Concerning communication, we would go ahead and send a robocall and text message to all parents in advance to make sure that everybody knows it's e-learning day. It would be documented on the district website, also on our district mobile app, and then any news stations that are providing us the option to communicate that. So it's thoroughly communicated. Concerning staff and student training, in the last 3 years, we have we've made major changes from going to in-person to e-learning, remote learning to hybrid back to in-person. We feel very comfortable in any of those platforms. We can pivot quite easily and I can say quite confidently. Concerning professional development, we've had very, there was a lot of preparation for staff over the last 2.5 years as well. And students are actually applying their knowledge on a daily basis, once again, using the Google Suites. So we have no problems in doing that. Concerning next steps, we're going to ask the Southland leadership team during their next staff meeting, which will be next month or early next month, the month of December, to review and share this e-learning plan with the staff, and we're going to expect staff to review it with the students as well. So when needed, we can go ahead and execute that without any issues at all with our e-learning days. Are there any questions at all?
Thank you, Dr. Talmadge. I would like to say, Mr. Simpkins, that the old concept of a snow day is now passé. If there's anything that is positive about COVID, it's the fact that we have such a grasp of the use of technology that we never had previously. We really didn't. And as a matter of fact, there were teachers that remember Edline and United Power School. They really felt that the old-fashioned way of communicating with the report card or paper was the way that we should do that. And I remember on March 16th that when the governor closed the schools, the next several weeks, all of our buses were delivering packets and packets and packets of paper as we tried to communicate with the students. But then we made that shift. When we made the shift, now teachers are communicating. I guess the biggest difference, if you look back several years, remember the gray bags of mail? There were secretaries in the building that did nothing but sort the mail. And now if we get a letter, someone comes in and says, "We have a letter." Because of the fact that everyone is communicating through email. Zoom is just a matter of clicking a few buttons and signing on. So we are prepared. And I thought this morning when I got up and I looked at the closed schools in Buffalo, they need an e-learning and a Zoom platform because this was just horrendous. But I'm certainly willing to answer any questions that the board may have.
Any board members?
I have 3 questions. One, first of all, let me be very complimentary. This is exciting and it's wonderful to know that we have this available for us. I guess when something extend the life of the, and we use this, for example, for absentees. If we have some students who are sick, ill, or anything like this, is there anything about this platform that can be extended to that? Question one, and I guess the rest of my questions are all connected in some way.
Well, at this point, we're limited to 5 school days a year. However, if students are on homebound, then we do have the latitude with a doctor's statement to use this platform. But for children as a whole, 5 days a year without special.
Okay, great. Thank you. The curriculum resource. I guess I kind of know my way around a few of them, but what discipline students represent? So that's my perspective. I'm sorry to ask, but I'm just curious.
No, and I'll just sort of off the top of my head, I know that's like, go back to that. Savage is one of our main ones, and can't quote me, but most like I would highlight the first three. Second,
I'm sorry.
that was my
I didn't mean to
perspective.
do that to you.
no, you were completely fine. We have a list of almost 15 different apps. The ones that I mentioned right here, the SAV is in my perspective, is your core classes. So it's like your sciences, your English language arts, your mathematics, social studies. If I'm not mistaken, the SOAR and the Overdrive is our new platform that we use in the media center, so students can actually take books out. So it's like a virtual library. Yeah, so, and then there's a lot of small little caveats like that little flip math, which would be more of a supplemental piece for individual students depending on where they're at academically and what kind of skill support that they need. So we are blessed with what we have.
I
That's
really
excellent.
appreciate you doing that. I guess the other thing, and it's just me, looking at the statewide reading level. So many of our children are so far below in terms of reading and exceeding. I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, what a tool to have to be able to say to a teacher, you know what, I need you to go home and look at this email, e-math and e-reading, or do something about it. And it's just a thought, it's just me, but I appreciate this, and I'm just thinking this could be a powerful tool to extend the life of what goes on in the class, and particularly for those who may have thought absolutely struggle. So, that's true. So thank you.
This does give me, Mr. Simpkins, an opportunity to comment on the library. We bought into the public library system. We do have a core collection that is down there because I think it's very important to have books. But now we have the ability to access 200,000 books by buying into the public arena rather than just confining ourselves to school libraries. Teachers can assign ebooks. They can be transferred immediately. I see Mr. Bear over there. So they can be transferred immediately to their Chromebooks. But what I think is exciting is not just child by child. A teacher can say that she wants their entire class to read the same book. And then without everyone coming in and transfer, because we have the code numbers to their Chromebooks. But the other part of it that I think students don't really like, let's say, Kevin, the teacher said, did you read chapter 1 as I assigned? And you say that you did. On the teacher's computer, she can see what students read, what chapters, because it's all connected to the system. So that's something that I feel that they're not going to like, but at this point, I'm waiting until we actually have access to some of the National Archives. I think that's next. I'm hoping that's next, but that is what we're doing now. We have not done it with the younger children. It's very important to hold a book in their hands, but students are rapidly here becoming enthralled with the idea of simply sending a message, email to the librarian. She transfers and you get a bill at the end of the month, which is much less than what it would be if you were buying all of those books. So it's fascinating that technology.
Could I address the homebound question? And being able to use e-learning for homebound. It's an excellent idea, but we want to make sure that we don't overuse our teachers where they're going to be teaching both virtually and in person at the same time. That can cause a lot of challenges for the teacher. So if that does happen, we need to have another teacher assisting in some way, shape, or form. It just caused some major burnout in a lot of schools to have teachers trying to do both at the same time.
Well, I wasn't really suggesting that the teachers do it, but I was hoping that there would be a cadre of some an e-learning core.
Yeah.
Of people who could support.
Yeah.
So if teachers were to communicate to them, because I was looking at a kind of intercollegiate conversation, I think this gives a great opportunity for teachers to talk to teachers about saying, you know, I really do need some support. If we did establish such a core, those teachers could easily, you know.
Of course.
Barbara had problems with her reading, and then that cord takes off.
Yeah, we're the problem children.
Yes. Relegate us to the back of the class.
Corners.
Thank you, I'm not trying to do everything on this.
That's okay. Any other questions or concerns before we move on for e-learning in the audience? Hearing none, this matter will be taken up again during the board meeting on the agenda tonight. So we declare this public hearing over. We will now open up Southland College Prep Charter School regular board meeting. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Bean. Mr. Simpkins,
Here.
Mr. Murphy,
Present.
Dr. Davis,
Present.
Dr. Hall,
Here,
Dr. Meyer. Here.
Thank you. Are there any audience to visitors for any matter that's on the agenda tonight? Hearing none. For discussion and actions, I'll entertain a motion for the election of Jeffrey Johnson as a member of the Southland Board of Elections.
So moved.
Present.
Has been so moved in second discussion?
Mr. Jeffrey Johnson, is a parent that I know very, very well. He and his wife have been very active, over the years. I think about, when I first met both of them, which were really, at several spelling bees, where Destiny, was, well, she was at one first place and went on to the regional, et cetera, but over time, particularly as their students, their children aged and they came into the high school, I think we had the opportunity to have more dialogue. And Mr. Johnson is a member of the 162 board, but what is probably more important to me, he knows us intricately because he has two children right here in this building. And I think that that is a strength and that is knowledge that is needed on the board. So his resume, of course, is attached, and he saved a lot of companies a great deal of money. Everybody thinks that's But when I marched with the band a couple of weeks ago, it did surprise me that I saw Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. It never surprises me that they show up at all of the events because they're very, very supportive of their children. But Mr. Johnson understands finance, and I think that that's a wonderful thing. But he also has a sense of what I would call what Southland is all about the dream. And so he has my recommendation simply because I think he understands our past and where we're going with our children. That excellence is not only expectation, excellence is something concrete that is out there. We must always strive for that. Welcome.
Welcome. Now that we've had the motion and it's all in their thing, can we roll call, please?
Mr. Simpkins,
Aye.
Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Dr. Davis,
I
Dr. Hall,
yes,
Dr. Meyer.
Now, well. Would you like to make any comments before you, come up?
Just a couple statements of gratitude. Vice President Simpkins, board members, thank you so much for your confidence in me. Thanks for the endorsement, Dr. Davis. I do have two children here at Southland now. My oldest is a graduate. My wife, Daphne, is here with us, and I'm just grateful to be considered. I'm happy to serve. I believe in educators. I believe in the power that educators have on young people's lives. So to the extent that I'm able to contribute to the process in my community, I'm happy to do that. So I thank you very much for the opportunity.
We save a seat just for you.
All right.
Your wife knows she's board number two, right? By process.
Yes.
Don't you know? All right, thank you. At this time, we'll entertain the motion in regards to e-learning.
So moved.
Second,
It's been second and moved discussion we've had.
I just have one more question.
Please go ahead.
So this is for 3 years. Will this allow for changes in innovations and instructional technology or in Illinois law for us to be able to make changes accordingly with the e-learning plan?
We're guided by the law as it's currently written. We would be hopeful that the state would influence laws that would allow us to move forward. But to be quite frank, no school district, no business is ever going to move ahead without the use of technology. It is a way of life now, and parents, text me, that was unheard of, parents. But what I like, particularly at the high school level, the comfort level that our students have and how they communicate. Our mock trial team was at the Palmer House. They were competing, but some of the other teams were in other states, and the whole room was covered with Zoom boards as they competed. The judge that was trying the case was not in the Senate, so they understand it. It's a way of life for them, and I can't believe that this world is ever going to go back in another direction. And so therefore, the laws have to follow just to allow us to continue, and I believe that it will.
I just don't want our hands to be tied if there's something that becomes better that we can do. It sounds good, but we can't do it because we're missing or.
I would doubt that, but we will see.
Roll call, please.
Simpkins,
Aye.
Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Dr. Hall. Aye. Dr. Meyer,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. We're gonna take another motion in regards to the audit compliance report.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. England, how are you?
Good evening, Dr. Davis, member of the board. On your table there, you have a letter from our auditors, and I will introduce them in a few minutes. And behind that, you have the final copy of the Southland financial statements, which will be, assuming approval this evening, will then be filed with the Illinois State Board of Education tomorrow. So just a brief overview of the audit for the year. This is the 2020, 2021, 2022 financial audit. And so in this budget for 21-22, we did project that there would be about a $400,000 surplus. The actual came in at $482,043. $482,043, excuse me. So very close to the initial projection. In terms of revenue, it came in about $200,000 higher than what was budgeted. Most of that had to do with additional federal meals money as well as some escrow funds. On the expenditure side, those came in about $115,000 higher than what was planned, mostly due to some special education expenses, particularly with out-of-place students, some additional technology, which of course is offset by this additional ESSER money, and some supplemental learning services as well. If you will see on page, I just want to clarify one thing here, page 5, you will see the cash flow statement. And if you look where it says net increase in cash, you'll see how Southland did add just over $800,000 in terms of actual cash. So what that means is that Southland has about 137 days cash on hand as of June 30th, 2022. That's important because ISBE judges charter schools based on 7 financial metrics, one of them being cash on hand. And but again, there's 7 total. And they look at those metrics every year that Southland is in existence. And so when it comes time for renewal, they look to the past 5 years to make sure that Southland is meeting all those metrics. And again, for this current year, Southland hasn't, so we're happy about that. So in addition to the financial statement, there were 2 compliance reports. One is, because the district expended more than $750,000 in federal grant revenue. It's required to have what's called a single audit, essentially it's an audit of its federal programs. In addition to that, ISBE, in addition to those metrics I talked about, they also want to ensure that South is in compliance with a whole number of statutes. And so they asked the auditors to also do a separate audit specifically of all of those various statutes that Southland is required to comply with. Here tonight, we have John George and Mandy Pittman from RSM. They are the auditors for Southland. I'm going to ask them to come up and just talk a little bit about the audit process and the results of that audit.
Good evening, Dr. Davis. Good evening, members of the board. Good evening. Thank you for having us. As Mr. Ingrid said, my name is John George. I'm a partner with RSM, and with me tonight is Mandy Pittman, Senior Director with the firm. I'm going to quickly cover our team and our timetable and some of the reports that you have in front of you, and then I'll let Mandy cover the highlights within those reports. As far as our audit teams, myself as audit partner, Mandy was the engagement leader. We had Natalie Patel as our manager on the engagement, Tina Big-Picos and Sam Brown for our staff, and then we had Scott Hubert, who was the supervisor that handled the compliance audit. So that whole group was part of the team that got this report to completion here from the firm's perspective. On the timeline side, similar to what we've had in the past, very similar timeline, even though we had additional procedures that we performed in relation to the uniform guidance that Mr. England mentioned on a single audit. We still had the same timeline. We did our preliminary field work in August. Our final field work took place in September, reports in October, and then brought us here to be in front of you with presenting back reports. The deliverables financial statement, which you've seen in the past, and Mandy will cover some of that. The compliance report, the charter school examination procedures. We've done those in the past as well. The new portion was the compliance report on the single audit with the expenditure of funds, the ESSER funds, and our child nutrition cluster, the school breakfast and lunch programs that were the focus of the audit. Those were the two new pieces that we tested this year. But and then we have a report to the board that covers some of the required communications from the conclusion of the audit that you have in front of you. So I'll let Mandy cover some of those highlights and share your questions as we go through.
Thank you. Good evening. So first I'll cover the financial statements. Those are in your packet. And really, I'll just kind of high level. I know that Craig went through all the numbers. Really wanted to point out the opinion, which is really the only thing that's RSM that has the RSM letterhead on it. It's a little bit different format. So if you're comparing that to last year, and that's really consistent within the accounting industry, the opinion changed. So now the opinion, the paragraph that's the most important is at the top. So really just key highlight there is that it's an unmodified opinion. So it's a clean opinion compared to previous years. You'll see a little bit of a different format, bulleted items in terms of the auditor's responsibilities. Again, our responsibilities haven't changed under our auditing standards, but really the opinion just being more clear, more transparent in terms of what our responsibilities are. Within the financial statement, pretty consistent with last year in terms of, if you're looking at changes or any differences. The only thing I will point out, you did have one new accounting standard that was implemented this year related to non-financial contributions, which are really in-kind contributions, those non-cash items. Really not a significant impact on your financial statements, just some more further disclosures on how those are being valued. And then the other thing I'll point out is there is a new standard that'll be effective next year, which is the lease standard. And that right now, if you look at the operating footnote, any leases that are over a year, whether it's operating capital, are put on your statement of financial position as an asset and a corresponding liability. So you can kind of look to that footnote just to kind of see the magnitude of kind of the amount of what will be put on there. So it's a pretty big, pretty bigger amount that you'll see on the statements for next year. Related to the ISB compliance report, that is one thing that we do look at. We look at the statute. So, it's pretty extensive in terms of looking at each statute, making sure that Southland is in compliance with each of the specified requirements that ISB outlined. So just know we do look through that. We had no issues or findings related to that. The other one, as we mentioned, is the uniform guidance. And that's when you spend more than $750,000 of federal expenditures. And really that guideline has all comes from the federal government. So there's really no gray area. They really just tell us how to test and what we need to look at. And so with that, we identify, we looked at ESSER and we looked at the National School Lunch Program. In there, it kind of puts us in that next level of independence. We have stricter independence guidelines. We have a lot of documentation that we have to keep in our files in terms of our CPE and the training that we go through, as well as, documentation on each of the grants. We look at the contracts, we look at the expenditures. So we're not only looking at, was the expense in line with the contract, but are there controls surrounding it and are those working and functioning properly? So again, 2 major programs. So, it's pretty extensive in terms of the testing in addition to the financial audit as well as the ISB audit. And no findings. So, again, a clean audit for that as well. And then the last item that I'll just point out is the report to the board. In there, that's just a required communication from our firm to the board. We would be required to disclose if there was any significant issues in performing the audit, any difficulties performed, any significant items that we wanted to discuss. You'll see it's a pretty cookie cutter report. It's a clean report. No adjustments, no past adjustments. And so you'll see again, a clean report on that as well.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And just emphasize, that's what you want to see, obviously. Unmodified opinions, clean reports on examination and the compliance testing, and no audit adjustments. So that gives you confidence in the financial information you're seeing on a month-to-month basis, and no past adjustments. So again, a lot of work going into the process. Appreciate all the support that we received from management and responsiveness. They did a great job of getting us to this point. So thank you, thank the board, and thank management for all the help in this process. So, questions? Thank you.
Any questions?
Mr. President, I do want to thank that you've been with us for several years, but we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge Craig English, who is our CFO, and he does a magnificent job. And I know that everything that you've reflected in terms of management, because the expenditures, as you well know, he's managing 2 different accounts with 2 different set of rules. And every day he is listening to some kind of Zoom workshop, learning as much as he can. So I'm very appreciative of him and of you taking a look at it. Because sometimes you can make an honest mistake, but because we know what the guidelines are, and also that you're looking at everything that you do, then I think it sort of gives us a comfort, because you never want to make a mistake when it comes to the financial stability of the institution. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Bennett, meeting you and Mr. Ender as well, and to have an organization come in and keep us clear on what our finances are. And of course, that you and him both are managing 2 different atmospheres, and just keep that in your mind on what needs to be done, and keeping all of us focused on how to manage 2 institutions and exercising due diligence to keep us in compliance. That's a lot of work, and you and your team are being committed to do.
I agree. And when you consider the primary responsibilities of the board, financials and governance, certainly knowing that we are doing very well financially, that certainly makes this board's job a lot easier. So thank you.
And roll call.
Mr. Simpkins.
Aye.
Mr. Murphy.
Aye.
Dr. Davis. Aye. Dr. Hall.
Yep. Yes.
Dr. Meyer.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Thank you. We're entertaining a motion in regards to tax cap.
Make that motion and. You have a second. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I do have to publicly acknowledge Mr. Zayed as well. So Mr. Zayed, Zach Zayed is our business manager for Southland. He works directly with the auditors on a daily basis, providing all that information. So he does a great job. So the motion on the table is for the 2021 tax return. So this actually is due each year on November 15th. We seek an extension from the federal government, which is automatically provided, so that you have an opportunity to review it at the November board meeting before it gets submitted to the IRS. Essentially, RSM's tax department prepares this for Southland or on behalf of Southland. Essentially, they're taking a lot of the information that you see there in the financial report that we just discussed, putting it into the tax return. Sometimes adjustments are needing to be made for tax rules versus accounting rules and things like that. But what you also see is a significant amount of checkbox questionnaires in there that are required by the IRS in terms of how things are done here at Southland, just to make sure that Southland keeps its tax exempt status. So copy of that report is in tab 5 of your packet. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Simpkins.
Aye.
Mr. Murphy.
Aye.
Dr. Davis. Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Dr. Meyer. Mr. Johnson.
Is you there? You move to point 5 on the agenda, line of credit. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
So since its inception, Southland has a ongoing line of credit. This one's with Wintrust Bank. It's for $1 million. Southland's never utilized this line of credit. It's simply there in the event of some major emergency. As I mentioned, Southland does have 137 days cash on hand. It's not in any sort of significant, it's not in a bad cash position, but it's in a very good cash position. So we don't anticipate ever using this. However, the cost of keeping it around is simply about $150 application fee every year. So there really is no reason not to just have it in the event that you should happen to need it at some point. I will point out that it is a floating interest rate. In other words, it's prime minus 0.5%. So as interest rates go up, obviously the interest rate of this would go up, if the interest rates sort of come down, the rate of this would come down. But again, as long as Southland's not using it, it's not paying for it or paying the interest on it. So this is simply just to renew it as of January of 2023 when the previous fund expires.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Simpkins.
Aye.
Mr. Murphy.
Aye.
Dr. Davis. Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Dr. Meyer. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. We're in the motion in regards to the intergovernmental agreements in Lincoln Way.
Vice President. Move to approve the intergovernmental agreement, Lincoln Way Area Special Education Joint Agreement, District number 840.
Second. It's been moved in second discussion.
Mr. President, we have only one child that's in Lincoln Way. Normally, this would not be a placement that we would make, but this is a long-standing placement. This child comes out of District 162, and we did not feel that we wanted to relocate the child. She's doing exceptionally well, and the parents asked that we enter into an agreement to keep her stable placement. And so this is the reason why we are bringing this to the board. She's a freshman here, but she's been at Lincoln Way since the 6th grade.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Simpkins.
Aye.
Mr. Murphy.
Aye.
Dr. Davis.
Aye.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Dr. Meyer. Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Thank you. We entertain the motion in regards to the contract with Academic Approach.
Second.
Been moved in second discussion.
Academic Approach has been with us for 7 years. A little later in the superintendent's presentation, I'm going to give you the academic report and the status of where we are now. When I look at master class, and that's a term that we created here, then you have to accredit Academic Approach because We don't believe that every child learns in the same way. And sometimes they have to come out of the regular class and they're reorganized, sometimes by grade level, other times by the academic deficiency or the academic strength. Academic approach also does one-on-one tutoring with our students at the top of the class and at the bottom for two different reasons. So over the years, we've gained, I think, additional strength, as you will see a little later on in my report and Mr. Lane's report. But I credit a lot of this to them bringing experts into our environment. And there are two teachers in this building, two additional teachers who are just specialists in that are here every day, in addition to the teachers that we already have. We have a teacher who has had several illnesses, several problems with his heart. And we kind of had academic support. They gave us a person to put into that classroom so that the students did not lose a step. They also do our accountability in that. For example, on the 29th is our all test day. That information from the testing will go to academic approach. They will then grade this, but then there will be a staff development that will follow up. So every teacher will know where we stand in terms of English, mathematics, science, etc. So I'm very appreciative. It also means that we don't have to employ all these people because that would be very difficult. But it's also important to me that I have someone that's looking at us with a jaundiced eye, so to speak, because they're not inside, they're just looking at the numbers and they're giving us advice as to what it is that we should do. Because you know what our goals are, 100% graduation rate. But the schools that the students are choosing to go to, and I'm hoping that Mr. Lane will mention Cal Poly, those schools, UPenn, etc., MIT, they have to be conversant and on top of where they are with mathematics, otherwise they could not compete. And to us, the persistence rate is probably more important than just getting into the school. Because if you don't persist and graduate, then what is it then? What is it about for the child and for the family? And so I'm very enthusiastic and supportive of academic approach, simply because I know what they can do and what they have done. And of course, now they're fighting this battle in terms of helping us to recover from the pandemic. But you will see some results this evening that tell you that we're winning the battle.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Roll call.
Simpkins,
Aye.
Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Dr. Meyer,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Board members, we'll take a motion for item 8, but it goes on. We'll pause for Dr. Davis to kind of give us any additional details. They're all personnel matters. So I entertain a motion, goes all over to page 7.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Before we vote, Dr. Davis, any details that you'd like to share?
Yes, sir. There are 12 agenda items that are specific to our coaches in speech. You will see the tennis coaches, volleyball coaches, the basketball coaches that you want to, because we're bringing that to you at this point. Intramurals, our part-time employees that come in and help us with cross country and on and on. So that's primarily what we have at this time of the year, our yearbook sponsors and sponsors of our various clubs. But I'm prepared to answer questions on
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll take the roll call.
Mr. Simpkins,
Aye.
Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Dr. Meyer,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Thank you. At this time, we'll take a motion for the approval of prior board minutes on the record meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Simpkins,
Aye.
Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Dr. Hall,
Yes.
Dr. Meyer,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
At this time, we'll have the chief executive officer report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Bear, can we go first to the calendar? please?
Sure.
Because I didn't want to strain your eyes, then you do have, I think, a presentation for board members. This is a very different calendar, and it's lucky that I have mine, Mr. Bear, because I wouldn't be able to read that.
Right.
So that's a good thing.
Wow.
For
Yeah.
those of you who've been with us for a while, Mr. Johnson, you're on the wrong path. You have. You know that we have hitherto not have been as involved with sports, but we are now. So when you look at the calendar, then you will see that the freshman boys, first of all, we have basketball teams at all levels. We hired Mr. Justin Johnson, who is doing a magnificent job of being the head basketball coach with assistant coaches, etc. They have been exercising and running and doing all the things that you do. But having said that, these teams have credibility, and you've never heard me say that. Our forte has been that we stand on our academics, but these young men and the girls, not only are they getting good exercise, they're competitive, they're well coached, they're self-disciplined. And what I like also is that Mr. Johnson is emphasizing, and he says it all the time, let me see your Power School report. If you're missing an assignment, then you sit down.
That's right.
So he is on top of that. But this evening, and you can see this is the Thanksgiving basketball tournament. The boys freshmen are at Andrews, the boys varsity at Richards, girls varsity at Bloom and Bloom Trail, and boys at Chicago Christian, and it goes on every day this week as they play 4 games. And I'm just so very proud of them. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the cheerleaders that left with them today. And the board will be exceptionally happy that you were able to buy larger bowls for the girls. So they're happy and they're cheering the varsity, both the girls and the boys. And so I think this is going to be the year. I invite you to come on the 30th of November. If you'll remember last year, at the end of November, we played Eisenhower. And Eisenhower has become it's a word that we only use sometimes here, and people know that we sat. Because I always say that we're at home. So Eisenhower, I didn't know that much about basketball, but I knew we were down by 50 points and we had not scored a basket. So I remember when the referee came over and said, Dr. Davis, and I said, yes. He said, very sorry, we're running the clock. I didn't know at that time that meant that we were just going to try and finish this as soon as possible because we had to get out of it. So all the boys now in the building keep saying Dr. Davis is not going to be a year like Eisenhower. It's not going to be, but we play Eisenhower, and the board will be interested. It's our first game this year is against Eisenhower. So that's extremely interesting. But I just love the training program. I feel confident, and all I ask is that they be competitive, and I think they are, but they're having just a wonderful, wonderful time as they engage in this. But as I move on Thanksgiving Day, we will open at 5:30 in the morning. And we will start preparing to go downtown and to march in the Thanksgiving Day parade. And you may think, why in the world? Our parents are just ever so supportive. As they march, there will be tons of parents. Parents will be bringing them, dropping them off. We should march 142 strong this year. This is our largest marching unit. They will march with the girls also, but we have a young man, Mr. Harris, that's done a magnificent job with the percussion instruments. And so under the supervision of Dr. Kuga, whom I think is in the back of, I think he went down to dismiss the band, I don't know. But they've done a magnificent job, and for the information of the board, we've applied to march the next year's Macy's parade. I know it's an ambitious goal, but that's something that we would very much like to do, so we'll see what happens with that. But if you watched the parade about 3 weeks ago, then you know that they're more than ready for this, and they're enthusiastic. And so as we grow, the band also grows. For the benefit of those that weren't here in the beginning, we had Mr. Lawrence and 7 band students, and just had them. This is not a real band. It's not. So, but there were 7 band members, and then Mr. Lawrence in his years here managed to massage the band and grow it. But now, of course, we have one of the strongest bands in the South Suburban area, and students enter our lottery simply because they want to. So I encourage everyone to watch that. We are the 9th band to march. When that is, I have no idea. But we'll be watching, and that's a good thing. But then we can continue on with basketball, and I'm sharing with you the schedule. But this year, we're celebrating Christmas as we did before COVID. But I thought perhaps that we would combine the programs together, but we have such large programs now that if we did that, then each of the disciplines would only have 3 or 4 selections. And so I encourage you. It's just a wonderful performance. The dance group, the choir is on the 5th, followed by the dancers, and then instrumental music on December 8th, along with, and I can't forget this, with our strings, because they always say, Dr. Davis, we're an afterthought. They're indeed not an afterthought. And there are 13 of them. They're growing in number because we're teaching the violin and the cello in 162, but 13 of them will perform. But just some additional information, on the 8th of December, they will perform also with Apollo Fire in Evanston. And we're looking forward to that. But there's something else that will happen that week, if I can share it with you.
Dr. Davis, I think it's going to be held in the finger on
They
that.
are indeed. Governor State can seat 1175. We anticipate that we'll have a minimum of 800 per performance. But I gave you a flyer on the 8th, 9th, 10th, and possibly the 11th. We become Tougaloo North. As you are aware, I sit on the board of Tougaloo, and the president, Dr. Carmen Walters, will fly in on the 8th of December. She will be visiting Bloom High School, Homewood Flossmoor, all of the high schools. We are arranging for her and her recruiting team to do that. And then on Saturday, there is a program. She will come to Southland, and Mr. Lane has arranged for our students as well as others that we're welcoming from all over the state to come to meet the president, to hear the presentation. There will be scholarships given out, etc. But on the 10th, also at 4 o'clock, the alumni of Tougaloo College will come here in this room, and Dr. Walters will host a meeting and a dinner. She will share the strategic plan and any other information. They have a very interesting group of people because they span the decades. There are alumni that are 50 years out, and they know the old Tougaloo, and then there are those that just recently graduated, and they have a different perspective about Tougaloo. So we'll welcome Dr. Carmen Walters. This is the first time that we've done this since COVID. 4 years ago, under Dr. Holton, we did do a recruitment effort, and she came here. At that time, she was really going to work for the churches in Chicago, but she did meet here. So we'll see what comes out of this, but we do welcome her. And on the band night, which I think is the 9th, 8th, okay. She will be at Governor State with us, and we invited Dr. Green, who is the president of Governor State, so they will sit together in our box. I think it's it'll be interesting. You know, the HBCUs are very different than other colleges, but I welcome her here, and we're now in the process of organizing and getting the colleges ready for that. So that is happening this month also. But any questions about the dates? Just come out and enjoy the concerts. And if basketball interests you, you can follow the team, or you can do what I do, which is to go to all the home games. So I'm there for the home games, and I will be Eisenhower. Just
Yes.
okay, all right, we'll see. If we could, Mr. Bear, let's look at our COVID numbers.
Okay.
And you see, in September, we had 1 staff member and 7 students. October, the numbers are really down 2 and 1. Thus far in November, we have 0 staff and 8 students that are out with COVID. What we see now in this building is a great deal of flu. And I don't know what we necessarily do about that, except we are still masked, and I do feel like that protects us as much as possible from germs. But what we're going to do now, rather than testing every 2 weeks, we're going to test after what we call significant occurrences. And right now we're having a significant occurrence on Thanksgiving. We think that our students and teachers will be traveling. And so because it'll be outside of the bubble, we will test on Sunday to see what it is that we have as we open back up after Thanksgiving. So we're gonna have that same procedure as we go for it. But I don't want to say COVID is under control, because I think, I'm not sure what controls it, but we're containing it at this point. If I could, I'd like to go to the next slide, which is very interesting. And if you look at this, in the high schools, there's 666 high schools in the state of Illinois. There are 67 high schools that received the summative designation of exemplary from ISBD. And there are 18 high schools with an index score between 95 and 100. This is where I was telling you about the strength of academic support. Okay. And then there's us. What does this mean? I want to look, if I could, Mr. Bear, the 2 data points, let's go past that. There's some charts that you have, but what I think, well, let's go back. Stay here, Mr. Bear, just 1 second.
Sure.
All right, if we wanted to look, we started in 2017 with the designations, exemplary 2017, 2018, 2019. So we have been consistent, but you know that this last year was not a usual year. It was very difficult. We felt it in the classrooms. Dr. Meyer and Dr. Hall, you know exactly what I mean, but so do those of the people that are in the room. The children came back to school, but there was unease. We were constantly beset by surges in COVID, and it was a difficult year. So to me, this designation means more to me after what we've gone through than some of the others. But I want to share something with you that disturbs me. You have some charts, board members, in your packet, and I'm not sure what we can do. Yes, we can. We're showing them on the screen. Southland College Prep, you're looking at us. And you see this spring that we're 88% minority. And then you look down and you look down, the next school that looks like us is 22% minority. And you see everybody else as you look down. But you also look at the low income rate, and you see where we are and you see where everyone else is. I couldn't be happier about the exemplary rating. I'm not happy about the fact that I don't think that we've changed in education in the way that we address issues, and it just, it's disturbing to me because we don't have any magic wand. There's nothing that we do. We have additional time on task. We know that. You know, we emphasize the basics. We teach foreign language. We work, and our teachers, I think, do a good job, but what is the difference? And why is this that the rest of our state doesn't look at it? And so I don't have the answer. I have what I think is the answer. I think that the answer lies with our parents and community. I think that we attract parents that want this, and so therefore they're pushing, and as time went on, it's not necessarily in the beginning, you know, we had a difficult time in the beginning, but I think now parents are thinking if students who live right here in our community can go to Stanford or Yale, why not my child? I think that's one of the issues, but more than that, what I feel, because I'm in here, the school every day, is the attitude of the students. I don't think that they have any doubts, most of them, as to whether or not they can achieve, and they're pushing. However, that's what I think. These are statistics. So I want to share with you a resume from a man that you know. And this is Dr. Leatherwood.
Oh, yes.
Dr. Leatherwood sits on the 162 board, but he's a researcher. And I happened to be looking at his resume the other day, and I went to page for him, and if we could share these. And what Dr. Leatherwood is going to do, he's partnering with the University of Chicago. I'd like to get some more definitive data. We know what our test scores are. We know what we look like in terms of the racial makeup. We know, I'm not quite sure, and maybe Craig could comment at some point. They're looking at free and reduced lunch. I'm not sure if that's a correct indicator of poverty. But you see the numbers, but Leatherwood and I are going to be and a team working on this question. What is the difference? Is this, what are we looking at? Because I don't think that this is a result only of what we're teaching in the classroom. I think it's really more a result of the ambitions and the hopes that parents have, the hopes that the students have. There has to be something other than just what we're doing, because everyone is teaching in the classroom, and I think it's more than that. I think it's the intangible. But I will give you more information. He's going to give me a proposal. We'll see. Nothing is happening right now, but it both intrigues and disturbs me. Dr. Hall and Dr. Meyer have probably been in education as long as I have. Why is this always the same? When do we as educators turn the corner? So I don't think that this is just about us. What we would want to do is to come up with information that could be shared with others. And I don't know, but I would like to pause here and try to get your thoughts. Not that we're not happy, we're happy. But we can't just be happy, what we have to do, because I remember years ago, I try to think Mr. Murphy was probably on the 162 board. And we had a researcher that was here from the University of Chicago studying the Arcadia. And okay, he was here for several weeks. He had a workshop and he came out with the conclusion that yes, Arcadia was basically operating at the 95th to 98th percentile, but that they were an aberration. That's what he shared. So there was no, they were an aberration. So.
Well, everybody understands, I also serve on a charter board for elementary learn charter network. We started with 8 schools, we have 10 now, 24 students when we first started, 4,000 students now. However, when we look at the average for just Black kids who were leading and exceeding on this IAR on the state test, 12.4 is the state average of students meeting or exceeding. Now, of course, there was some positives in among those schools that we were with. However, I mean, what is that? What is the secret sauce here? It doesn't work in other schools. And I think that the research experience that you and Dr. Leatherwood come up with is going to be something that's going to help us figure out what goes on. I don't know the answer.
I don't either. I just know what I think it is.
Yes.
Like, I know it's community. I know how it was for us growing up. I would say that maybe I wasn't free and reduced, but maybe reduced growing up in New York. And trust me, when I tell you, we didn't have everything, but we had a church, we had a community, we had people who were like, what are you doing out of school? You know, how your studies coming along?
I believe that the comments actually can be summed up in one word, and that was a word in which you used, community. There is a community here, and that community is one that is driven by a culture of excellence. And so through the multiplicity of contacts between parents, administration, and students, as well as external sources that also are part of the community. I think that those have been elemental in terms of us building a culture of excellence. You know, there is a saying that attitude reflects leadership. And I believe that we have very strong leadership here that is committed to excellence. And when parents and children see that, there is a term perhaps used in the modern day vernacular of youth that essentially says they level up. And I believe that our parents and our community has truly leveled up. We have, I remember when we looked at changing the grading scheme and how we anticipated pushback from the community. And we didn't get any pushback. And that was because everyone leveled up. Everyone said, hey, I'm here for the ride. And that level of commitment to excellence, I think, is what perhaps makes us a bit different. So I look forward to hearing the results of your findings. I think Dr. Leatherwood is an excellent choice for this. He seems to have a way with processing data and making it something that can be communicated fairly easy. He has a way with young people, and I truly believe that, he's an excellent choice for this project.
And we will keep the board, informed. Mr. Lane, what is happening with our seniors, the class that is currently now going through the process? I know they're excited, they're invigorated. But
They are now.
Good evening, board. Good evening. Great to see you all. And Dr. Davis has brought me up to bring information with respect to the class 2023. So we just put together a quick kind of year in progress. So thank you, Mr. Baird, for taking us through. It's going to take you through quickly some touch points with respect to the class of 2023, our seniors, but also just provide a few other things that I think tie into a lot of what Dr. Davis has not only brought to us, but access to reflect on how we can continue to build our community. I think this year, a lot of this has to do with obviously maintaining again, that culture of excellence, but also building and forging new relationships and fortifying existing ones. And finally, the thing that we have to really punctuate is that this is a return to, as Dr. Davis says, the new normal. We kind of liken this year as Southland students getting back outside. So with that, we're calling this Chapter 10. Chapter 10, the class of 2023 is our 10th graduating class. So it's a historic group. And I think we'll be able to really have some really strong data with our first 10 graduating classes. At this point in time of print, we have 124 seniors. We had a record number of QuestBridge applicants. And Mr. Murphy, that speaks to, again, the culture of excellence. We used to have anywhere from 4 to 6 because of the belief that our students have held and because they've been able to bear witness to the deliverance of these things that we would like to inspire belief but turn into reality. This is why we have so many candidates in all these programs. We have 4 Gates Scholarship candidates, 3 Posse Scholarship candidates, and we have over 1,000 applications on file, and this is before Thanksgiving. This year we had 45 college presentations, which is a breakneck schedule, but we had hundreds of requests. Pretty much every school in the nation would like to come. And actually of the 45, I'd just like to note that 42 were in person. So schools are very, very, very eager to be here at Southland and being in person. We're on pace to break 2,000 applications. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'll be very excited if we do. And in about 3 weeks, we'll be getting a lot of the bigger decisions for early action in some of the major institutions. And that's just a picture from homecoming, by the way. Some of our guys. At this point, at time of print, we're at 85, actually 84% of our seniors are already admitted to a 4-year institution. We are trending about at a rate we normally do. We have a few students that we hold out until first semester grades are up so that they can show an upward trajectory, particularly students who are under a 2.0, because we know that's a big, it's a big checkpoint with respect to college acceptance and college admissibility. Next slide. We are already over $5 million in scholarships. That has everything to do with, again, the volume and the rapid nature that our seniors kind of take to getting their applications in early. And so we'll definitely trend to beat our goal this year. But I'm happy that we're at 5 million prior to Thanksgiving. This is a part of our going back outside. And we really love this because if you just see the smiles, and I just think that's something that we just took for granted, Dr. Davis, pre-COVID, just to get outside the building and be recognized and to be celebrated. This is a photo from the University of Illinois Salute to Academic Achievement, a program they've been doing for almost 40 years. where they recognize the strongest students from underrepresented groups in the state of Illinois. We always have the highest number of students there. And this year we were not only recognized for obviously our huge presence, but we actually received a letter from one of the provosts at the University of Illinois, really thanking Southland for again continuing to show the state what is possible. So this is just a picture of our young people. They all received not only application fee waivers to all 3 of the Illinois system schools, but they had an opportunity to meet students as well as the president. This year, we are again building on our relationships, and we held our first on-site admission session sponsored by Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville. We're very pleased with the work that SIUE is doing to really support retention, graduation rates, particularly of students from underrepresented groups. And so we actually invited them in, and 47 seniors were admitted on the spot, many with automatic scholarships in one afternoon. So it was a bunch of happy kids and happy parents and lots of photos. Of course, the University of Virginia has made a lot of headlines in the last few days. Obviously, our thoughts go out to the campus. In case you haven't heard, there was a huge tragedy involving members of their football team. But we are really, really interested in building our relationship with UVA. For those unaware, essentially they're the third highest ranked public university in the nation, behind the University of California and the University of Michigan. And this year they actually kind of put their money where their mouth was, and they actually invested and flew 4 of our seniors in for a special fall fling event, which is traditionally actually held for their in-state residents. But they actually flew out 4 of our students to participate. So that I believe they flew out about 25 students from around the nation. All the rest are from and obviously taking care of their in-state residents. But we have 4 young people and really good looking kid on the far right got a chance to participate in that program. All right. I mentioned the in-person presentations again. We're back. That's just a great photo. Dartmouth was our first, basically scheduled one. Dartmouth was really interested in getting back with Southland, and they were our first school to solidify a date, and she was the first to be served. So we had a lot of great presentations, and again, there's nothing like being in person. We talked about Cal Poly. So last year, as the board may recall, we forged a relationship with the president of Cal Poly. Again, another interfacing public university system that has a huge responsibility to their taxpayers. But Cal Poly kind of ignored that and recognized what Southland is doing, way 745 miles away from the state, and has again entered in a partnership. And this year, Dr. Davis, they have agreed to continue that relationship, and they are guaranteeing a minimum 1 full ride scholarship to a member of our class of 23, and that's a minimum. Last year, we actually had 2 awardees, Dwight Taylor and also Nadia Brazil, and they're both first-year students. One is in computer engineering at Cal Poly, and Nadia is in nutrition. And she's thinking about going to biomedical engineering. Just wanted to just share that again with the commitment. Cal Poly actually flew out a professor emeritus here last week, African American gentleman Walter Harris, to meet with our seniors personally. So literally they flew out just to meet with Southland. And I have gifts. So here's a gift. Cal Poly being the tech school that it is, and their theme is learn by doing. What they've done is they tasked their engineering team create a pocket brochure. And so they wanted to have a brochure that could actually go in your pocket. So this year they engineered this, the students, and it's designed so that you can have a brochure in your pocket. So we wanted to make sure you guys saw some of the product. Probably the biggest product is that Cal Poly delivers the highest median salary of any school in the state of California. The median is at $68,000. If you know anything about the average salary for college collegians, that's far above the national average. And again, that's average. Okay, so this is a great partnership, and we're hoping that we can just continue to build. All right, we're back outside again. So the 100 Black Men College Fair it made its return after 3 years, and we took the entire junior class. It's always been a Southland tradition. So we're glad that we're back. And again, I think this again really impresses upon that culture that Mr. Murphy talked about. And you may recognize Art Norman. He loves us, and he saw the Blazers, and he said, yeah. And of course, I have that photo, Mr. Simmons. We didn't put that one on the presentation. Dr. send you a different photo. I'll send you that photo. He's a proud member of the Sons of Blood and Thunder. But yeah, he obviously met with our juniors, and again, our juniors had a wonderful time. All right, just a few other things. Again, getting outside. You'll notice that is Emmy Award-winning Robin Robinson, the interviewer, and she was the host and mediator of the History Makers event, an evening with Eric Holder. And obviously, everyone knows Eric is the former U.S. Attorney General, and our students actually kind of served as the ambassadors for this event. They actually read his book, Our Unfinished March, a new publication, and essentially kind of stole the show from Mr. Holder with their questions, because they were not only tasked to read the text, but to help bring discussion at the Peninsula on Michigan Avenue. So our students went down the Peninsula and represented us very well. And Mr. Holder autographed each one of their books personally, and specifically that young man to Robin's left. That's Yehoshua McClurkin, who hopes to be a famous lawyer someday and a star member of our mock trial. Mr. Holder told him personally he expects really big things out of him, because he was very impressed with his line of questioning, which actually stumped Mr. Holder during the presentation. Oh, wow. Very much so. And a few other pictures. That is our former senator, I believe, Carol Mosley Braun. That's right. Yes. And of course, the students didn't know who she was, so we had to have a little history lesson on the bus home. But Carol Mosley Braun actually came up, Doc, and complimented our students on their questions. And obviously, Mr. Holder. We had our first ever student organizational fair. Again, these are things that we're trying to do to continue to build a culture of excellence, but also to be involved and to take leadership. This is something that we think is really important, just about being at Southland. It's not just being academically sound, but finding your way, exploring your passions, and taking leadership. And so for the first time ever, because first time we had a field house where we could let the kids in, we had our first ever organizational fair in the new field house. And I believe we had at least 23 organizations, and all the students took the lead on the entire operation. There were no adults involved in the making of that fair. And we're really proud of Student Council for taking the lead there. Something we mentioned at our first board meeting of the year. We wanted to get our children outside, and we also wanted to, again, build inspiration about what this is all about. And so for the first time ever, Southland took over 430 students to college this fall. So to kick things off, our entire freshman class got on a bus and drove down to our flagship institution of the state, the University of Illinois at Urbana. And that is a custom drone photo courtesy of Mr. Bayer. Thank you, Mr. Bayer. But our students had a wonderful time and got a chance to visit the new multi-million-dollar Illinois Street Residence Hall of Dining Hall. This, I believe, is the second largest cafeteria in the nation, and a beautiful facility.
We're going to have Mrs. Johnson and Mr. Johnson, ILL and I to go.
That's right.
And the dorm.
That's right. That's right.
The Q was marching down the party.
Well, not on this big pie side with that B-names that
Not that photograph.
not in that photograph. Yeah, we have other photos. All right, our sophomore class, the entire sophomore class, visited the number 9 university in the nation, Northwestern. And again, this is one of those campuses that is really close but most young people have never, ever been. And that's truly criminal. And so when you visit a Northwestern and realize just what is in your own backyard, it was a very eye-opening experience. As you see, they took a photo, that doesn't look like Northwestern, but if you know Northwestern, they're right on the banks of Lake Michigan. And this is a beautiful space on a beautiful day. And it definitely had an impact on our young people to walk Northwestern's campus and eat some really good food. And again, this is the first time that our young people actually had lunch together. And if you think about this, our sophomores have been in high school for 2 years and have never sat with each other to have lunch due to COVID. So you can only imagine how much fun they had in the Northwestern cafeteria. Yes, sir.
So, go Wildcats. And also, I'm wondering, we're seeing so much, and some of the other, we were talking, I'm wondering how Northwestern's recruiting has matured over our 10 classes.
Northwestern has done a very good job. We actually, fun fact, our class of 2014, our inaugural class, they took a pretty big chance on a school that no one had heard about that began on the second floor of the hoop and actually admitted four of our young people in our inaugural class. One left them at the altar because Princeton came calling on the wait list. So 3 enrolled. But ever since, we've only had 1 year where we didn't have students admitted. Currently, we have 2 students that our sophomores got a chance to meet. Goodness gracious. She has a very distinctive name. Shenamelum Alebabanan is a sophomore, and Jeremiah Wynn is a senior young man. So we do have 2 current students at Northwestern, and we graduated 6. So we've done pretty well. Thank you. All right, and of course, for our finale, we went back to our tradition that Mr. Hall and I love so much. For the first time in years, our entire junior class returned back to the Golden Dome and went to the University of Notre Dame. It was a blustery day, but they had a great time indeed. All right, and I want to end with a great piece of news that just came out today. Speaking about our alumni, some of the board may remember Jalen Hankins, but he literally just got his notification today that he was admitted to the Washington University School of Law. If you guys know about law programs, there's this thing called the T14. And T14 means the top 14 law schools in America. And WashU happens to be 15 for the record, but that's not bad. All right, so Jalen is on his way to practice law, and he'll be a part of the class of 2026. And he got a very generous scholarship package. If you know anything about law school, they're not known for giving a lot of money, but he got a very generous financial aid package. So he's very happy. And he did apply early decision, so he will not ever get to find out if he got into Yale or Northwestern, but he's very happy. With Washington. So keep him in your thoughts. We're very proud of Mr. Hankins, and obviously that's the end, but it's certainly more to come. So that's where we are going into Thanksgiving here.
Thank you. Dr. Berry.
That concludes my report, but if there are questions.
Just a comment.
No.
He said we don't have like a crystal ball. We do have Mr. Lane, though, before him in front of us. One of the things that I think we talked about earlier, the commitment and how we can do better in some of our other schools, particularly schools that have large African American population, is convince people what I call, I think you already know, the training of success. How do we get parents more involved? Because the secret sauce here is the fact that the parents are committed, the students are committed, and you and your team are definitely committed. So you have a 3-bound cord. You have a partnership, and that's that success. And people want to be here. The students want to be here. Once you get a student to buy in, and they're obedient to their parents and their parents support them, we're missing that on a global level outside of institutions like ours, and there's others like ours that do exist in other places. But for us in Illinois, being one of the marquee schools, if you want to know what is that secret sauce, it's Southland's commitment to the parent and the student, all committed to the same purpose. And, Mr. Kogar, right? One band, one sound, they're committed to it. They're committed to it. And if we could figure out a way to pour that on everything, I think Rich Township, Boone Township, other schools, because I heard you guys talk about the math. One of the things that Prairie State struggled with to get our students through, that we know for sure, when the students do their testing and they test in, if they have to go through developmental math, they have to go through English, and you and I've had this conversation. That's one of the things that I love about what we do here. If you can get them through math and English, you can send them almost anything. That's the hurdle. How do you get students to understand what reading comprehension is, and how that even plays into their math and their math scores? And we just can't seem to get that buy-in. But if you can get it, what we do, even if you take what we do in 162, one of the things about 162 is that you do have, and always had, that's how you got us. I mean, we bought into the plan you had, and we made our sons and daughters commit to the program. And so to lay the foundation of teaching them how to lay the bricks when they're in the Richmond Square. And Richmond Square, up through 6th grade, we're helping them lay the bricks. By the time they get to Hooper, Illinois, we're handing them the bricks. And when they get to Southland, they're asking you to pass them. So they're learning how to build the pyramid themselves, but the foundation has to go back to what we do in 162. And then some of the schools that don't come to 162, then we have a system here to help them bring them up to speed. So if they can, then peer pressure is something else. When you see all your buddies going off to college, you want to go to. So there's a mixture in the formula going here, but it starts out with the parents, the school, and the student. With the student being the one we want to lift up at the top of the pyramid. So you have the formula. Question is, how do you replicate it in other places? You got it, but how do you replicate it?
Well, I
Perhaps
think,
we'll get some information from the.
I think a lot of other places, they'll go in that, try to replicate something similar to that. But it's not consistent. And that consistency from the time we have elementary, middle level, and then it's hit hard at the high school level, but then it continues in college. Where we actually have that work where you all are doing things to make sure that the students are successful in college as well. That is what helps more than anything, because so many students, and I see this with my students in my classes, they're prepared, and then they don't have the support. And then they try and build up again, and it's not quite there because they don't have the support that they used to have. And they're beaten down after a while, and it's hard for them. So I always am appreciative when I get the phone calls that I need to contact, or where do they need to go to get XYZ help? That's exactly what it's all about. And if every high school did something like that, that would be fantastic. But it's not gonna happen. I wish it did. It could.
It is a, you know, it's not a critical mass.
Exactly.
Mass here. It's been survived. I'm very, I want to be, I have to.
And we do have. And
I hope I didn't start, man.
God is a law.
I think one of the words we used is replicate. One of the issues that makes replication so challenging is because there are times where people or organizations will take a template, an off-the-shelf template, and say, well, this applies here, so it must apply there as well. And they don't look at contributing factors of those communities that might be to a greater or lesser degree that essentially necessitates a tweaking of the template. It's almost like, you know, when you have more than one child.
Yeah.
You say, I'm going to love all my children the same.
No.
Well, you can't love them the same because they have different points of need. So you love each one to meet them at their point of need. And so that is kind of what we are doing here. We are meeting each child at their point of need, and we have buy-in from all of the necessary parties in order to make it work. And where we see increases, ebbs or flows with regard to their ability to comprehend, we shore up those efforts. So the template is constantly being tweaked. So I think that's one of the things that we always have to look at when we talk about replicating something. Is taking the blinders off of our imaginations and saying, okay, we can tweak it here or there as necessary.
Well, Barbara's right. He's absolutely right. It is the support. There are so many adults. Every month you come here and you have personnel listed that we're trying to involve. It's that touch by many adults. And the research says school is about relationships. It's not necessarily about the academics as much as it is about the relationships. I feel good. I told them marching downstairs, but carrying on and so on and so forth.
If I could join in, since you all had it and come without,
I'm going.
new guy, I'll try one. And say, one, there's different ways to lead. One way to lead is to succeed. That has occurred.
Yes.
Our 10th class shows that. Mr. Lane's report shows that this data on the exemplary fact shows that one way to lead succeed. I applaud you, Dr. Davis, to go further with Dr. Leatherwood to use data and research to find if there's other ways that you can lead through knowledge. I think that's excellent. The chart you show says 2 statistics on it. Those 2 statistics stand out and therefore maybe have concern. And there's reason, but it's just 2. Your research will give other measures to help see ways that we're the same and different or counterintuitive. This happens to be counterintuitive stats that are on there. 88% poverty according to their measures, and we'll probably have the numbers for them. Tops in poverty and tops also in 88% African American. But one thing that strikes me is that a lot of times people really want to, and it sounds like your Arcadia report, people want to say, well, this school's an exception. And no. Sometimes you're just exceptional. And Southland College Prep is exceptional. And when you unpack the hows and whys for the beautiful purpose of helping others, because the real questions are, as you scan down there are some great names on this list, and that's just the list of the top 10% that made it in there with us.
Yes.
They got to come along with us. Okay, with us. But there's a whole bunch of others where you got to ask yourself questions. Why? There are other big names in the history of schools that didn't make the top 67 and their charters. Forgive the jab at charters, but where are they at? And others that were really big names academically, and why didn't they make the list along with us?
Amen.
And so leading by succeeding has been done. Now leading through knowledge and research, I think is wonderful. That is a great thing to do. Find out why we're not just an exception, that we're exceptional.
Good job, new guy.
If we don't have anything else, Dr. Davis,
Yes, sir.
anything else?
No, sir, but we can find out soon. I think that how the team still is coming back.
Okay. Well, let's find out what the teams are doing, and if any of you guys have any important meetings tonight, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Well done.